Welcome back to Serenity with Lawna. I am Lawna. I am joined by Coco, who is a very tired puppy and just wants to go to bed. We are not going to bed yet. I wasn't planning on making this video. I made a different video at a certain point about this, and it mostly has to do with physicians helping people pass away, but I just want to talk about what happens when headlines hurt more than they do any good, and when people really feed into them and end up sharing with their social media platform, people that may be going through that experience or may have a different experience, what you're doing to those people and how re-traumatization can happen through parasocial relationships or just the sharing of misinformation. And it really drowns out the lived experience of people like me. The other day, I had somebody from my past share a story about a woman who was living with a very rare vaccine injury. And we all know vaccine injuries can happen, they don't always happen, and they aren't as prevalent as we think that they are. We have done more good than harm with a lot of the vaccinations that we have come out with. But what happened after broke my heart in a way, because there was no conversation, there was no interest in my lived experience with this, there was no interest in anything but other than what their interest is, and that's probably being unvaccinated, not going by the norms, ignoring data, and going into a story that is so one-sided. So I'll link the article down below of this woman, and it's unfortunate what her story is. However, it's just not the norm. It's basically framed with a sensational headline: youth after COVID vaccine injury. So this wasn't just another biased, inflammatory clickbait piece. This one hit me deep because there's been so many. I had to get off of Twitter for this reason. There's just too many misinformed people. There's too many people that want their opinion to upset others. And honestly, people that are in my position who have gone through the process, who have had that process really fucked up by people that are malicious and that intend to do harm. I can't imagine what this woman is going through, but I'd like to open up the conversation of what she's doing doesn't really bring any justice or any light to the people that have sat waiting for assessments, who have sat waiting for doctors to start treating them appropriately. And in this article, it starts going on about statistics of how a lot of the people that were provided MAiD had neurological disorders, and there's a reason for that. Also, they go into how you don't have to have a terminal illness to be able to be considered for that. And that is because even if you have a life-limiting disease or condition, eventually you're going to deteriorate. And at what point are you going to deteriorate so much that you're not going to be able to make an informed decision? So basically what I mean by that is you wait and then you decide, I don't want to live this way anymore. And then it's too late because your cognitive abilities are not there. And then you get denied because of that. So there's all these factors that people without medical degrees are writing about or talking about that are trying to persuade other people into believing what is right and what is wrong. And the fact of the matter is, what's right and what's wrong is individualized, and it's up to that person. So if you are cognitively capable of making your own medical decisions, then these conversations need not exist outside of the four walls that it's happening with the MAiD provider or your physician. And I don't think it should be a public thing. It should be a public discussion when we're talking about people that may not have the capacity, or we have people that are in these fields that may not be doing the right thing for their patient. But not a lot of people know my full story or engage in dialogue about what I've experienced. There's not a lot of people that want to hear the other side of the story or even allow space for complexity in the topic. It's not black and white. It can't be black and white. But yet there's people that are speaking with certainty, and they're doing it loudly and proudly and publicly, and it hurts people ultimately. I don't see this person posting about my story, but yet they're going to pull somebody that they don't know whose story aligns with their narrative, and they share the shit out of that. It makes no sense to me, and that's probably why I stopped talking to most people, is most of you make no sense to me at all. Your words and your actions don't line up to what they should. And yes, it's tragic, of course, that this person's health took such a downturn after a medical intervention that was meant to really protect people. And unfortunately, with anything in life, like going for a knee surgery or anything medical, it has pros and cons. You have to be aware of that. And if you're going to go down this rabbit hole of just a narrow focus, then it's a whole new level of stupidity. I don't know. Of course, this woman should be offered empathy and resources and care, and I hope that she gets them. But suggesting that a medical professional offering this to her, or at least making her aware of it, is inherently malicious, that's not only untrue, it's dangerous, and it puts people like me at more risk. So once again, I just want to go back to the facts, check it yourself, which I'm sure most of you don't. The CPSO requires physicians to discuss all legal end-of-life options, including MAiD, with patients who are suffering and meet eligibility criteria. You can be sued for not doing so. It is not one out of betrayal. You can take it that way if you really want to, and I'm sure some people do. And some physicians don't have the greatest bedside manner, so maybe it came off a different way. But this is why patient physician communication education is important, and it's not while it's happening, while the crisis is happening. We need to be taught about it before. The real betrayal is pretending the system is working perfectly for everyone, because it's fucking not. There are countless of people who qualify for MAiD, but their case is sabotaged because somebody on their care team has a personal bias or a moral discomfort with their request, and that's all it comes down to. That's exactly what happened to mine. I don't see anybody rushing to my side to fight this. The exact opposite. So before you start posting like all this bullshit about, oh, this person was forced into it, no, they weren't. And I can guarantee it. I would love to sit down with this woman and have a conversation with her and have her tell me that that's what happened, because I know the exact opposite of that experience. And what enrages me the most is not just the misinformation that's involved here. It completely disregards stories like mine. It's completely defining and eliminating a whole group of people. It's basically putting a group of people who do not want this option right now. Maybe one day they will, and then they'll be pissed that it's not available. And it's completely overlooking the fact that there are people that want this and who are constantly being denied the dignity of agency and autonomy over their own body. It's as if my experience is too inconvenient, too messy, too challenging to basically be able to meet their neat moral narratives that they want to proclaim so loudly. So instead, I watched this person go on interviews, they post selfies, and perpetuated a version of reality that just does not exist for most people in this situation. And they don't even attempt to hold space for the rest of us or attempt to have that conversation. And the author is just as fucking guilty. They won't talk to me about my experience, I guarantee that. Reach out if you want to. My email's in my bio, I'll be waiting. They won't ask, they won't listen, and that hurts deeply as well. But what is more threatening is the fact that there's so many people that are going to read this article and walk away with fear, disgust, and misplaced outrage at doctors who are just trying to follow the protocols designed to uphold patient dignity and standards that were broken in my case and should have never been. MAiD is not a trap, okay? It's a discussion. It's not coercion. It can be. And we need to have safeguards in place, and we do kind of for that. Dystopian exit offered as a first line solution. It's just not. Like, there was one Twitter post about the fact that they were wanting to kill off disabled people so that they can use their organs. Listen, nobody wants my organs. Nobody wants your organs. You need to think a little bit more critically before you make such a crazy statement, and that is insanity. It is a last resort, but it's one of those topics that takes a long time to talk about, a long time to come to terms with, a long time to plan for. So we bring it up early, and we're able to do that planning through that. Someone got the intention wrong. And there's some of us that are begging, right? Um, and the system has denied us. And then we have to fight more. And it's become unattainable. And even then, most people that apply for MAiD are denied. So just because she was offered it or they talked to about it doesn't mean she would hit criteria when she went through the assessments. So before we jump on the bandwagon and before we start echoing somebody else's story, as universal truth, I really believe that we need to ask ourselves some simple questions. And one of those questions is, are you willing to hear the stories that you don't want to believe? Maybe that story is mine. Are you willing to hear the stories that challenge your worldview and what your perception of the world is from where you're at? Because there's a huge difference between what I used to think and what I know now. Because if you aren't, once again, you're part of the problem and you're making it harder for the rest of us, the ones who are actually in need of care, who aren't getting the services, who don't qualify for the funding, who don't have anything. You're making it really hard for us to survive, and we're not heard at all. We're silenced by these mega stories that have so much misinformation. And I don't make this post out of like self-pity. I should believe that we need to hold space. We need to make space for the whole truth, and we haven't. We just haven't up until this point. For the complex, painful, courageous stories that don't fit neatly into the headlines that we so love and that we so casually share. Don't have to agree on every step of it, but you weren't in my assessment. You weren't in this woman's assessment. She wasn't even assessed. You weren't there for those conversations. So please stop pretending that there's only one side and only one way of doing things, and that there's some kind of moral like dilemma going on here. And I think that's all I have to say about it right now before I can, I don't know, I'm just getting mad at this point, but there's so much more that people just don't realize. If you believe in what I am saying, or if you believe that at any point you may have to make a decision like this, then it's important to start getting this information out and making sure that it's accessible to everyone before they lose capacity to do so. So this is where the conversation starts. Please leave a comment. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, sure, give it a thumbs down, but at least make a competent argument. There will be no tolerance for hate or any kind of bashing. If you want to have a conversation, that's fine, but we will not accept people being bullies or starting to harass others for having a different point of view and a different. Start helping each other, and let's start binding together, or at least melding together our points of view so that everyone can be helped in a way that we just haven't done up until this point. And that is it for the spontaneous Serenity with Lawna post. I hope you all are having a wonderful week as you head into the weekend. Be safe, be smart, do the right thing, do your research, spend some time talking to people with different experiences than the ones that just hold true to your own systematic or core values. And yeah, have a great life, basically. Much light, love, and good vibes. Post.